Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies, and today we are doing uh, another corn movie, Children of the Corn 3, as a matter of fact.
Urban Harvest.
Urban Harvest, so we're moving into the city, Chicago, to be exact. So,
Safi?
it came out in what year, Marco?
What?
What year did it come out?
Okay, I'm just gonna review the movie. So, Safi has decided to eat pizza while we do our review, so she can sit there and eat her pizza because
At least one piece, and then I'll just wait to eat the other.
if you guys don't know, she is basically transformed into Chunk from the Goonies.
No, I haven't. I really don't appreciate it. I have not turned into Chunk from the God,
Yeah, you
I
are.
weighed like 93 pounds a few months ago.
Next time, we won't allow you to enter the review room unless you do the truffle shuffle for the cat.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You don't know about the truffle shuffle?
The truffle shuffle?
That's what Chunk from the Goonies does. You're Chunk from the Goonies, Safi.
Okay, why don't we move on to the movie?
That's what you are. So, anyways, we're here. We're here to review the third movie in the series, and it certainly feels like a third movie because for some reason, third movies are always good, for the most part. Like, Sleepaway Camp 3 is pretty good. Halloween 3 was really good. Friday the 13th 3 is really good. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is really good. Like, a lot of the times the third movie in a series can be pretty good, and this one, it's all about these brothers, Joshua and Eli, and they moved to Chicago after their dad dies mysteriously, I guess. And
But they're from two different families, though.
yeah, but you don't find that out
No,
at first.
I really thought they were brothers.
Yeah, and they're in Chicago and they're dealing with urban populations and urban environments, and they have to deal with that. Like, that's what the movie is. Like, it's like kind of like, at the same time, like a coming of age movie meets Children of the Corn in the best way.
It's also too a culture change. Probably what you would call culture shock, because they're coming from a rural community. They wear very plain clothing in a very strict environment, and they're coming to a more relaxed and everybody's white. Sorry, but that's the way it was where they were, and they're coming to a very diverse. Well, they're coming to Chicago. It's a very diverse, and their school is very diverse, and people wearing all kinds of different clothing, and they listen to music, and they play basketball. And they didn't do anything like that back where they were. So it's like a culture shock.
Eat your pizza, Chunk.
I'm not do it anymore. I just won't.
Just eat the pizza. eat the pizza, Safi. So, this movie, I'm trying to figure out like how to like get into the movie, because there's so many things to talk about, and at the same time, I would just say the main message is that the movie is good, because the second one was awful. It had potential, though. This movie finally felt like a good horror movie, and it felt like a good sequel, and I really wish that the series had stayed on the same path as this movie was on, because this really was a solid sequel.
Yeah.
And there were lots of great kills, and I'll just give a general review and then give my food review, and then we can get into spoilers, because that's what I like to do on my own reviews, where Safi's in the background eating pizza. So, I would say the film it has a lot of great points to it. It's fast. It's got some horror in it in terms of, the second one didn't have any horror. Like, the second one felt like...
The second one was sanitized.
The second
That's
one...
what it felt like.
The second one felt like a horror movie made by a Christian organization or something.
I don't know what.
And the third movie felt like a horror movie made by a group of adults. and it had a lot of great kills. I thought that the music was pretty good. I thought that they had a monster in the movie that was practical effects, which is funny because it's the 90s, and you'd think that they'd be even more reliant on computer-generated effects. But no, they had a practical monster, and I thought it looked so much better than the first one, the second one, where they didn't have anything even. I thought that there were some good lines. I thought that the characters were all pretty good. And see, this is what I meant if people would go back and look at the Monster Blood 2 review. This is what I meant by the first half of that book was the perfect setup for a slasher. Because it was a lot like this, where you had all these unlikable characters, and you just wanted to see them all get killed, and they had a similar type of vibe with this movie, except the characters were a little bit more likable. You still wanted to see them get killed off, though. Like, well, I guess kind of, just because it's a horror movie. That's what happens. And I would say there's very few negative points to the movie. Like, it's a solid, good horror movie.
It is.
And I'm not going to pretend like it's not just because it's called Children of the Corn 3 Urban Harvest. There's a lot of people, they're going to bury their heads in the sand and pretend like it's a bad movie just because it's Urban Harvest and all this stuff. But, you need to look at the series as a whole and just be like, yeah, actually, this is good. I'm not... Like, don't pretend like it's not good. Because it is. Like, it's really weird. This movie has a 4 out of 10 on IMDb.
Really?
People collectively have given it a 4 out of 10.
I don't think that's fair at all.
Okay, your phone's going off now. Okay, so my food review. Safi's done eating her background distraction. So... something very similar to the second one happened while I was watching this movie.
What's that?
Where all of a sudden, just like in the second one, where all of a sudden I thought about what fruit roll-ups tasted like. All of a sudden in this movie, I thought about the taste of slushies. And I thought, this movie is really a slushie. It's like when you go to a store in the middle of nowhere, like in the middle of Nebraska, and there's like a food store with cool, unique, old retro candy and stuff, and you get a big, giant slushie with different flavors, and it's not like something you have all the time, but it's a really fun and good treat to have on a road trip. And it's very refreshing, and it was a very refreshing movie. I mean, it really felt like an injection of goodness that the second movie was lacking. So that's what I would rate the movie. Safi, what did you think about the movie now that you're done stuffing your face?
Marco, that is really unfair.
Well, you think people like to listen to that in
I
the
don't think
background?
anybody could hear me eating.
Yes.
I really don't.
Yeah, they can, Safi.
No, bull. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what was really weird about the movie, and this will go to my food review, is that they would eat, and I don't get it. I've never seen this in my life, so I'm wondering if they cooked the corn, but I don't know how they could have done that. But they ate raw corn. The little boy grew really good corn. I mean, it really looked beautiful. It was like a work of art. And, there's a whole story about that. But I would give it a really good, and I've never seen anybody bite into an ear of raw corn. That just sounds revolting. So I don't know how they did that, because when they did it, they didn't seem like they were too grossed out. So I'm not really sure what they did.
Yeah, they had this one shot in particular where he hands the corn to his stepfather, and his stepfather just opens it up and takes a huge bite out of it like it was cooked. And he's like, that's really good. And it's like, who the hell are you?
Well, I don't need to explain, but he was really kind of an expert in corn. It was part of his business. But anyway.
Oh, isn't that convenient?
But still, no matter what, that was weird. But
that was really weird.
My review, because I thought it was a very good movie. It was like a 90-degree turn from yesterday.
Yeah.
When you watched the second one. The second one, I felt like it was sanitized. It was like somebody put it in the washing machine, ran it through, and anything that was... that's why I say it was almost like it was today, where they're trying to sanitize things, and they just took everything that they considered objectionable, in whose eyes I have no idea, and took it out and just sanitized it.
It was like Megan, the movie Megan that just came out. It was exactly like that movie.
I have no idea what that is.
Children of the Corn.
But my food review is one thing. Around here we have the like a corn festival. In fact, several people.
Corn?
Yeah, we do. The popcorn festival.
Ew, gross.
And
nobody likes
several
that.
communities actually have festivals related to corn. But what's really good is, when the corn is ready to be harvested, and you boil it for a certain amount of time. It's so good, like especially bicolor corn where it's white and yellow. That's the best. You don't have to put anything.
Bicolor?
B-I.
You like bisexual corn?
Marco. Anyway, you boil it and then you eat it. You put some butter on it and you eat it. It used to be I would put, and this
salt
is what
and pepper.
Well, I did that, but I used to put sugar in the water,
Ew.
the boiling water, and it's just like a
Gross.
spoonful, and that's what I was brought up to do.
Ew.
But the corn is so good on its own, you don't need that at all.
No.
And that, I would say, because the movie's about corn, and they showed really, the ears of corn were beautiful. Of course, they could have been field corn. Field corn looks like the other, except the kernels are a lot bigger. And oh God, I had field corn in Tanzania, and they had heard about the corn that we eat, and they thought that the corn that they got was what matched what we had. It was anything. It was so awful. It made me so sick. I was sicker than a dog for like a day. So anyway, but what I would equate the movie, because I thought it was very, very good. It was a really good, like, you want to entertain yourself, and it's not a really long movie, and it's not overly short. It's just the right amount of time, and it had enough stuff in it. Everything that we talked about that the movie didn't have yesterday, this movie had. And it's like a good ear of sweet corn that you get during the summer that's been boiled,
That was
not
really
raw,
creative, Safi.
with butter.
You're not going to be able to use the fucking cop-out corn review in any other review.
I know, but
series.
I just thought, since they kept showing the corn, I don't know what, they probably did get actual corn.
It did kind of seem like the person who made the movie had a fetish for corn.
Yeah. Well, and if it's made in California, which it probably was,
Which I think is cool. Like,
they could have had access to anything like that.
if you made a Children of the Corn movie, wouldn't you like to have a lot of corn in it? Like,
Well, it should be.
not like the second movie where people get race cars ran into their wheelchairs and stupid shit like that.
And that was another thing. In the second movie, which we were going back to that again,
because
they
it's
hardly even
bad.
showed the corn
It's
fields.
really bad. Yeah.
They had more corn, and this is Chicago, and the boy magically grew corn because I don't know what you want to call it. It's hexed or something in an urban abandoned factory.
It's the devil's corn.
Yeah, and we saw more corn in this movie than we saw in the second one, which is bizarre.
Isn't that hilarious?
So go ahead, Marco.
What do you mean? Like, well, we just, we both just gave our, like, general review. In terms of spoilers, it was funny because for some reason when I always watch the movie, I always thought for some reason that there was another one where it had this main kid in it, because the way that it started off, it jumped right into the action again, just like the second movie did, and it almost felt like there was another movie that they could have made about Eli and about him going to Joshua and them forming like a brotherly bond, and then at the end of the movie they run away. Like, it almost felt like there was another movie that happened in between parts 2 and 3.
Oh.
Did you think that, Safi? Because, I mean, they jump right into action again.
Yeah.
To where it feels like...
No, see, and that was a confusing thing. You had the two main characters. Well, there's the people they meet in Chicago. There's a few characters from there, but the two main characters are Eli and Joshua, just like Marco said. And it turns out, and we thought they were really brothers because they said they were brothers, but they looked absolutely nothing alike. And I thought, well, that's whatever.
They were a good duo.
And I think the reason why Joshua wasn't really part of the inner circle, because he said he was not really a native of the area where they had lived. He had come in with his father, who was doing some kind of project.
Corn experiments.
Yeah, and so he was not really a townie. He was from out of town, and this is the way it is when you live in a small town. Somebody comes in, moves in from out of town. They're never really part of the inner circle, so to speak. So, I mean, anybody who's lived in a small town knows this. So, if somebody says, you don't know what you're talking about, yes, I do. So, anyway.
Well, part of the fun of the movie is that after they kill the stepdad and they go to Chicago somehow, which, why did they pick Chicago? How did they get there? Who knows? Who cares? That's not really that important.
Well, they were put on a bus. So it would be social services of Nebraska.
They just said, send those two white boys to Chicago.
No, they ended up in a diverse neighborhood. It wasn't just all African Americans. It was a diverse area.
Send those two kids to Chicago where they can get, like, stabbed to death in their sleep.
That's silly to say. That's just not right. And there was never any threat of that. And the little boy, because he was so evil and he was really possessed, I guess, he could take care of himself. So,
well, you didn't know that at first. I mean, at first it felt like this kid
had his feeling.
And let's talk about the main two kids. Joshua, he's very typical. He is likable. He's not very good at acting. You know, there's this line at the beginning of the movie where he's like, "My dad's gonna beat me again," and I laughed out loud at that, the way he delivered that line. And he never really becomes more likable. In fact, it's weird because as the movie goes on, and I will say there are some flaws to the movie, and one of them is that I really wanted more of the movie to be about their brother relationship, because at the beginning of the movie that's kind of what it was about. And it was kind of interesting how for some reason Eli was like really nice to him, even though all the other kids he possesses them and he makes them his bitches and he tortures them, and
he's a little kid. He's not.
Yeah.
Well, he's not. He's probably like, I'd say 8th, 9th grade, maybe. And the rest of these kids are
high
like
school,
junior and seniors.
Yeah.
And his brother, so to speak, is also like a junior or a senior.
And that whole time Eli lived with Joshua, he never like hurt him or anything, and so
he remained loyal to him.
It's kind of weird. It's like I thought, because as the movie goes on, Joshua starts acting like a jackass to his brother, and he kind of...
Well, he becomes part of he adapts to the area, so he doesn't wear plain clothes anymore. His stepmother, or not stepmother, what would she be? His foster mother, she actually bought them clothes to wear.
Yeah.
To make them more like they would, quote, fit in. And they had the money because the husband made quite a bit of money at his job. And Joshua was excited about wearing the clothes, and he wore them. And then the younger kid didn't like it. Eli didn't like it, but then he got used to it, almost like he just gave up on him, but he still was loyal to him and didn't try to hurt him.
But his big brother wasn't really that loyal to him. Like, it was weird.
No.
The things that he said, and they're like, stay away from him and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, like, it was kind of weird. And I felt like I would have liked to have seen like more of them being brothers or something, like how the first part of the movie started. And Eli, he was really shrimpy, and he was really, really like, you just wanted to punch him in the face the whole movie.
And he got more cocky, and he would do things and like make fun of the adults, and he got to be really evil.
Yeah, he's really powerful.
Yeah. And you're thinking like, well, what's going to stop this kid? And the thing, well, we can't jump to this yet, but I don't know, maybe this was brought up in the first one, and I don't remember it, how there's a significance of his own Bible from home.
No, that was never a part of... Well, okay. Actually, they had like some sort of a book in the first movie. I think they had a Bible, and then I think they had a book where every kid who turned 18, they would put their name in the book, and then, they'd be sacrificed.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. But that wasn't what this was.
Well, that was another thing, was I felt like this kid, Eli, he could probably run the whole world, unfortunately. Like, that's how powerful he was. And I felt like if he had to deal with the people in part 2... Like, the movie kind of pretends...
He would destroy the whole cast. Because they're so weak.
Yeah, he would have killed them all.
He would have.
Like, the main son, he would have killed him in 2 seconds. Like, it would have been a joke. So that was kind of another weird part, was that you really didn't know, like, okay, he was just another Children of the Corn. Like, that's basically all the explanation you get.
Yeah.
And they did show, like, a flashback where they killed his parents together, and
they showed all kinds of flashbacks.
Those were from the first 2 movies. And so it was like, it just didn't feel organic. Like, if Eli was with those kids, he would have done a lot more damage. And so it kind of stuck out. Like, I wanted more explanation about where he was and like what he was doing. Because he has all this power. He has basically infinite power.
Yeah, and it didn't look like there was going to be anything that could stop them. And he recruited all these kids somehow. And at the end, and I know Marco's not going to be happy, but he made each one of them a necklace. And I don't know if that had any significance. It was just a little cross. Maybe it was made out of corn stalks. It was really tiny, so I couldn't tell. But all these people were wearing them. He gave them each one, and at the end they all rip them off, like they had something to do with being, he was like controlling them. That's what we were saying. He just gained so much, he just like gained it like really quickly.
It was cool.
Yeah, it was, and it was like, well, how could he be stopped? Who's going to stop him, and how? Because it didn't look, and that's why the movie was really good, because they built up the suspense, or you're sitting there thinking, well,
that's the best part. Like, there's this whole first half where there are kills, but it's not really like in your face everything. They save that for the end. Like there's this whole long part where it's very subtle and very under the surface, and I really like that part of the movie a lot because it felt like this is what the second movie could have been. This is what any good horror movie could be like. It really is a good template for horror movies, even though it's not like a great movie. It is a pretty great movie.
It's something that you would have seen. I don't know if anybody who listens to this has done this, but if you ever been to the drive-in, and it's a great movie to watch at the drive-in theater, and on Saturday night, and maybe two of them,
and it's
like the first and the third one.
The modern equivalent would be it would be a great Hollywood video rental where you go there on Friday, you get 3 movies for $5, and you get Children of the Corn 3, and 2 other movies, and then I couldn't think of any other good movies. And then you watch Amityville Karen, and then you watch those on the weekend and have fun and return them next week. Like that's what this movie is. But the thing is that was no small feat. As you can see with the series going forward, this is a really bad series. So, even though this movie isn't great, you should still like celebrate it compared to all these other movies.
And it was the same amount of time, I think, as the one we saw yesterday.
I think it was like slightly longer, maybe, or slightly shorter.
Not by much.
But they should have studied this movie and taken the lessons that they learned making this movie and made another movie instead of making what they made after this.
Well, I guess we'll talk about that when we come to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a great movie, and we should just stick with
and really,
with being happy with that.
If you want to watch a good horror movie and it's short and sweet, and you don't feel like you've wasted your time, your valuable time that you have doing whatever you want to do or need to do, then watch this movie.
And it's not really dated or anything like we joked about.
No, it's not.
The urban harvest.
This could be today, except for maybe the cars. But you're talking about kids. They don't have a lot of money, and they buy old cars and they fix them up and drive them. So you can't even say, because they really didn't. I'm trying to think, but I don't think they really showed a lot of the city.
No, I meant like with the kids in the school.
Oh no,
like.
Not really.
They weren't really stereotypes that you'd be like, "Mwah!" Nowadays.
No, there was nothing. The clothing and everything was pretty generic.
To me, it felt almost like they were using stereotypes that you'd use for white children, like coming of age movies. Like, and I'm saying that because whenever you see like these different types of coming of age, they always have these certain stereotypes. And whenever you have like a traditional one, you always have a bully, and they had that kind of
a little bit, yeah.
But he couldn't do very much because he was overpowered by Eli. And then you had the love interest who the main kid falls in love with, and then you had his best friend who's also her brother. So I felt like that's another good thing about the movie too, is that a lot of people complain about these movies with like this type of stuff in it where it's like, oh look, the 2 kids go to Chicago. Like, it's not like that at all. It's focused on horror. It's not focused on agendas or anything or anything like that. It's all focused on the horror.
And it's a Catholic school too.
That's what's effective.
So just to be clear, it isn't a regular public school. It's a Catholic school because a priest is the principal, which means I don't know all the politics of Catholicism.
Which is kind of fucking creepy because
it's part of the what would you say, a diocese or something. So anyway, but they weren't wearing they didn't have to wear uniforms or anything. But I just wanted to say that because the priest figures prominently in I'd say from the middle until the end.
Yeah, the priest was an okay character. All the characters in the cast were pretty good.
Yeah.
Was there one weak character, Safi? Was there any weak character?
Well, was the mother?
Really?
I don't know.
Well,
I'm just trying to think.
She got killed halfway through.
Yeah.
She got
the foster mother got killed first, and the only reason probably why the foster father didn't get killed because he set it up in his business to sell Eli's corn to the world. And, it was all about money, making money. And for Eli, it was about spreading evil and whatever else he's spreading. And,
yeah, that's the other thing. In these movies where you have these evil characters, you never really find out their goal. And with Eli, it's like, okay, what does he want to do? He just wants to kill adults and then have the children with him. Like,
well,
what's the goal?
The corn it looks beautiful and perfect, and they, the father, has a meeting and he brings the corn to the meeting, tells everybody, shows them the corn, and they're all like, "Wow, this is really like perfect." And the kid he grew the corn, and if you know anything about crops, corn doesn't take 4 weeks to grow into a tall 6-foot plus stalk with a full ear of corn. It doesn't take 4 weeks. It takes a few months. And but Eli's corn took 4 weeks, and they emphasize that a few times in the movie. I can't remember what I was going to say.
Well, it's an urban harvest, so
yes, so that makes it different. But no, he had some. What happened was the corn came from home. He brought these corn cobs with him in a suitcase.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Okay, well, the thing is about this corn, it looked magnificently beautiful and perfect, but when you would eat them, I don't know, bugs would come in your mouth and
it all
would
depended.
Eat your system.
It depended on what he wanted to do, because this kid was so powerful. He would just put a couple of corn kernels there, and then make somebody explode or something. Like there was another guy, a homeless guy who ate some corn, which, honestly, like that homeless guy was probably really happy because he
had something to eat.
Yeah, and
but
he
was
ate
eating
this
it
corn.
Raw.
No, he might have cooked it. I think they had a fire. But no, it looked raw because it didn't have any like burn marks from the flames. So he ate it, and then corn husks like stabbed into his body and pulled him underground. So
he went into the factory. He sneaked in there and found the corn. Because the mother was there and she was escaping. She felt like she was in danger. She ran out of there. And she ran past the homeless man, and he was right by the entrance to the bunch of corn, and so he went in there and saw it. And so here he is. He goes in there and goes, "Well, I'm starving. I'll have some corn. Why not?" But it makes you. The evil thing about it is that it looks beautiful, but it makes you
that's
die.
all depends, Safi. As I was trying to say, it all depends.
Why do you think that?
Because it's for different purposes. Like Eli controlled it all with his mind. Like I think, he could just make anything happen because it all came from the corn that he controlled. And something that's really cool is that all throughout the movie he just does these little things, and they turn out to be really powerful. Like he takes some corn kernels, and he puts them in the cafeteria in the lunchroom, and then they turn into cockroaches, and they get into the food, and then all the kids eat the food, and they all like Eli. And so it's like they're all under his influence at that point. And then another point, he asks the foster mom to give him a kiss goodbye, and then he licks her ear, and you're thinking, why is he doing that? And you're not thinking, well, oh, you know what he's doing, Safi.
He marked her, I guess.
He's either marking her, but what I was thinking was he put a corn kernel in his mouth, and he was putting the corn kernel in her ear.
I don't know.
And so
I didn't see that.
And then she ends up getting killed, and it's all because he was able to do that by, getting her into his psychic control or whatever, and then he draws a picture and she's dead. And that was a really good kill too. She falls on this water pipe, and blood squirts out with the water, and that looked really cool. There were some great kills in the movie. Wouldn't you agree? Fun, great kills.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the end, and I don't know if you want to get to the end. Tell me when because now after what you said, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, there's a lot in the movie that doesn't make sense, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it.
No, that's true. I would recommend the movie. Just like I said, it's like a brief escapism, and it's it's worth your time. You don't feel like you've wasted your time. It's short, but it's jam-packed, and there's, like we said, there's a few loose storylines there, because like we said, we thought the two boys were related, because they said they were brothers. I believe they said that at the beginning. And what happened was because these kids in Nebraska, because they killed all their old adults, there were just kids left. And I think what they did, social services got them together. They found homes for them in different states. And this was Illinois, and it was Chicago. And so these two boys were together. And so I thought they were brothers, even though they didn't look anything alike.
We find out that they're not.
They're not brothers. They're from two different families, and the older one is not really from the area to begin with. He was a visitor. And Malachi. Now Eli, the younger one, who wears he wears the same clothes throughout the whole movie. He never adapts to the school, the kids, the area. He keeps doing what he was doing before.
And what's effective is that throughout the movie that eventually he's going to be in full control of everything, and he's going to kill everyone, and you just know that, like, it's progressing towards that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like just any old killer like Chucky, where, oh, look, he's killing off everyone. It's like, oh no, you have this kid with all these powers, and he's, like, creating a cult, and he's creating a monster or something, and he's poisoning the world with the corn, and so, he's doing a lot more, and he's in a lot more control. And I felt like, another great kill was when he was with... Okay, the love interest was really good. I can't remember her name, but she was a likable character. And then the best friend, Malcolm, and her brother, he was a great character. I thought that they were great side characters, too. Like... Mm-hmm. They were a lot better than the second movie's side characters, especially the women in the second movie. The slut 1 and slut 2. So
well, they actually were trying to do something, and they just couldn't finish what they were doing because they didn't know what they were really up against.
Eli enslaves... Well, okay. He enslaves the love interest, and he puts her under his control, and he has dinner with her and her parents, and they eat the corn, and they're like, this is really good. And then cockroaches, like, fill their entire bodies, and there's this incredible kill where the mom, like, her head falls over, and it cracks open her entire body, and there's cockroaches just crawling out, and I thought that is so gross, and ugh. So, like, there was a lot of great stuff like that in the movie, and what ends up happening, Safi, we can get to the ending now since you're just waiting. That's what you're doing. That's all you're
No,
doing.
I'm just thinking about the movie, and I'm thinking about that scene. Well, you say that you think the corn, it can do anything.
Well, it depends on what he wants. Yeah.
But he's not alive at the end. And so the corn, what happens is, remember we said that the foster father, he works in corn commodities, and somehow he gets it together with these other corporate people.
Oh yeah, can we just talk about how the dad, he's in like a completely different movie?
Well, he's just like oblivious to reality.
Yeah, like the whole
All
movie.
reality.
He's just like, he's not even in the same movie. Like, there's this one scene where the mom is talking in the bedroom about something important, and he's, for some reason, he's doing like a headstand.
Oh,
and
he's doing yoga or something.
He's like
That's what he's doing.
pressing his head into a pillow on the ground.
Yeah,
and
he's doing yoga.
And it's like, what the hell is he doing?
He was doing a headstand.
Really, Safi?
Yeah.
Safi.
Yeah, that's what some people who do yoga do that.
You think the actor added that into the movie? Like,
I have no idea.
He was like, oh, you know, it would be really dynamic for this scene. What if I did yoga? Wow.
I don't know. Or they told him to do that. But he was upside down.
He was really dumb.
In fact, it was really weird the way they showed the scene.
Yeah, because
and I was like, what's going on?
His head is like gigantic.
It just shows his head.
And it looks like a
cartoon.
Down. And they did that another point in the movie where you saw the teacher's head. And it was really huge and cartoony. And he's like, you are not passing, and you are gonna stay here the next year, and you are not passing. And they showed like his head like really big in the shot. Like, it was really weird.
What that was supposed to be. But anyway, what happens is, you know, they have this big thing at the end. Like I said, he managed to get all these kids, the Eli, on his side. They're all back in the factory area with.
And that was
corn.
Cool because he made them all his friends.
Yeah, and he gave them each a necklace, and I don't know, it was a little cross, but I think it was made out of corn stalks or something. But it was really cute. But he had made all those for each person, and I don't know if that was part of the control. But anyway, so, you know, we have all this stuff with the monster and all this, but the foster father, he gets killed. He kills him, or has the cornfield kill him, or I don't know, I can't even remember, but he got killed. And so you have this deal.
I'll do this part since you don't even remember it for some reason. Chunk.
I'm going to start calling you Chunk, Marco.
What do you mean, Safi? You're Chunk.
No, Marco.
Yeah.
Not really.
So Eli is doing a sermon, and all of a sudden the dad decides to rejoin the movie. And
he's drunk on his ass.
Yeah,
he's celebrating.
He literally
he sold the corn to all these people, and it's going to go abroad.
He just stumbles back into the horror movie that everyone else has been in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, he's staggering around. He's drunk on his ass.
It's like he just walked into another movie set, and they're like, "Oh, who's that guy?
Yeah,
we gotta like play along and add him into the scene."
I said, Eli, what you doing? Who are all your friends?
And Eli, he raises up a sickle and then stabs him right in the heart, and just blood squirts all over him. And that was another good kill. I just wished he chopped off his head though, because that would have been a lot gorier, more gruesome, and everything. And
well, I don't need that, but I thought it was he made his point.
That was a good moment. And then what happens is the brother took like a side mission where him and Malcolm, they went to Nebraska, which they went there really fast. Like, they went to Nebraska like they were the Flash, and they went to the cornfield from the beginning of the movie, and they got back that Bible.
Yeah,
and
it was Eli's Bible.
Yeah, and they also battled a scarecrow, which was also pretty cool.
And that was the father. that was Joshua's father, I
Yeah,
guess.
and that was cool. Like, I like seeing scarecrow fights in a
He
movie.
was like
It's
a monster,
cool.
scarecrow monster, which was really good.
Yeah, like, that was a better scarecrow monster than the ones that Goosebumps had.
Yeah. I don't know if they could have done that for kids, but that would have been pretty scary.
Really?
For kids,
But
yeah.
the ones in Goosebumps were scarier. It's just they didn't do anything. Like,
No, they were just creepy.
they just knocked at the door a lot.
And looked creepy.
Yeah, they
and
looked.
You could hear them.
They looked like your mama. So they get the Bible, and then the best friend, he succumbs to the corn.
Yeah, he gets killed.
It really is kind of inexplicable, the fact that this corn is evil or something, but there's tons of corn where they left from. There's like
Anybody who knows Nebraska knows it isn't really a very metropolitan. I mean, there's Omaha, and
I mean
Lincoln.
the specific strain of corn. There's like a shit ton that's supposedly evil.
I don't know. See, that's the thing. Because,
they left it. They left all this evil corn. The evil corn strain. I guess corn can be evil too.
I don't know. See, that's the thing. That's kind of the loosely put together part of the story. That,
Yeah.
They have not really fleshed it out.
Well, the corn kills.
Not noticeably. Anyway.
The corn kills Malcolm. So if the corn is that evil, then why would they even leave the corn there? Like, even though they got to go save the world, it's understandable that you destroy evil corn before you go back to the main quest. So Joshua, he comes back and he confronts his brother. I felt like that was kind of weak in comparison to what it could have been. It really felt kind of rushed at that moment.
Well, you have to explain the fact that it was important that he get this Bible because apparently, because of his power, it was linked to his powers.
Yeah, it's a Horcrux, like in Harry Potter, basically.
So he is evil and unstoppable, but not completely. Well, he likened it to a worm. If you cut a worm, the other half is still alive or something. The both halves are alive. So the Bible in itself was some evil component. And then Eli was the other half of it. So if something happened, and it was also interesting, they made the point that Eli had left the Bible and buried it under the scarecrow, far, far away from where they were, so nobody could get it. Why? Because if they got it and they did something to it, then that would hurt him, and he would be less powerful. So that was all brought out. Well, that's why they went to get the Bible.
It's weird though, because Joshua, he just like throws the Bible at Eli, and then Eli dies.
Well, no, he remember what happened was Eli started throwing sickles at him with flames, and because he was really possessed, and he would deflect. Josh would deflect them by holding the Bible up, and they would bounce up against him and go back to, like a boomerang, back to Eli. And I guess
but Eli dies in 2 seconds, Safi.
Yeah, he does, which was really strange.
It took 2 seconds to kill Eli. Very disappointing with that because he was uber powerful.
Yeah, but he goes back into the ground and the monster comes pouring up out of the corn. I thought that was him.
He who walks behind the rose finally shows his face. And God, is he ugly.
It's a big dragon, ugly dragon.
And he looks like a worm. He looks kind of like, I'm not going to make that joke.
Well, he doesn't even look as good as a dragon. He's a really ugly monster, but he's huge.
He looks good. It's a good looking effect. It's not like in It with Pennywise where he turns into a spider. It doesn't look like that. It looks a lot better. It looks pretty good and pretty creepy and gross, kind of like a like a maggot monster or something. And
Yeah, he was maggoty-like.
the weird thing, though, is that this monster, he just starts killing kids, like all the members of his own cult.
Strangles them. He has tentacles.
Like, he's unleashed. His powers have unleashed, and he's just killing everyone in sight. And you think, like, how are they going to get out of this? Oh, well, all he has to do is just go stab a root and severs it. And then the girlfriend goes in there. He has to cut her out of it, and then they have to cut the root together, and then the monster dies.
Yeah. But at the end, this is the thing I don't understand. The end, this is where the story line is loose.
Well, see, I have another thing, though, is that, what happens after this, because the Joshua and the love interest, neither of them have any parents.
Right.
And so I guess they just go run off together and go to Nebraska, and
They don't show.
they don't
what
show
happens,
it.
So they just show them walking off in the sunset.
They just cut away.
Yeah. But the thing is, the deal that is still there and still made about the corn, and even despite the fact that the foster father passed away, one of his partners, they're greedy, want the money. They are, you see a boat, a dock, a loading package box with Hamburg, and that's Germany. And it's being unloaded in Germany, and the partner's there, and then there's somebody, a German guy, supposedly they're receiving the cargo, and they open it up, and it's the corn. And he says, I'm selling this, I don't know what the exact word, but I'm selling it all, it's going to be available to all people all over the world. And so without the boy there, Eli, controlling the corn, what does this mean? That every time somebody eats an ear of corn, they're going to explode with bugs and kill them?
I don't know.
That's what we don't know. If you think, you said something about he had control over what
he did, because
what they did, what happened, what kind of problem happened.
the corn didn't always do stuff. Like, it seemed like almost like the objective was just to get the corn into their bodies.
Yeah.
Like, with the father, he ate that raw corn. He didn't have any problems.
Right.
And then they ate it at dinner time at the table, and they didn't have any problems. So
No.
I told you, it's like he controlled the people through corn or something. I don't know.
He's not alive now. So that's what
No.
I'm saying. I don't understand, what's going to happen to these people.
I really don't care, because
No, it doesn't matter. It's just, to me, it's like kind of like a loose end. So, anyway, so I think we both recommend this movie. Like I said, it's something fun to watch.
it's a slushy.
And it's, not a long movie. And, you'll see, if you're a critical reviewer, you'll see a few loose ends. But basically, it's a pretty good music, pretty good acting, pretty good storyline, pretty good monster, pretty good kills, blah, 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 blah. And I think you'll be pleased. And why people gave it 4 stars,
4 out of 10.
4 out of 10, I don't understand, because if they're comparing it to the second movie, it's like the difference between night and day.
Yeah.
So if you like this video, unless Marco has anything else to say, please give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. We welcome all new subscribers.
Make a comment and give Safi instructions on how to do the truffle shuffle.
Yeah. And the thing about me, Marco just is not telling, is that for 10 years I had to take a chemotherapy medication, which was a pill a day, which was really nice. And I just kept losing so much weight because just nothing tastes good at all. And it would make me sick. Nothing I ate, it was just, I won't go into it, but it just made me ill. And so all those factors combined to me losing a ton of weight, and I was very skinny. and I looked awful. And so anyway, my doctor said, because I kept losing weight, he thought, well, you can get off the medication now. And I'm worried, too, if I got a relapse, it would come back twice as bad.
Well, now you don't have to worry, Chunk, because you have a fridge full of ice cream.
Okay, I'm going to start calling you Chunk.
You have
then.
a fridge
That's
full
the real Chunk.
You have a fridge full of ice cream.
Yeah, so for 10 years, I didn't really eat any ice cream. Like, we'd have all these birthdays, and it's a tradition in our house that we have ice cream and cake for everybody's birthday. And it was really hard for me because I didn't care about any of it. Because it didn't taste good, it didn't agree with me, it made me sick. And I didn't like ice cream, I especially didn't like any cake. And it was really bad. And now I like it.
Well, it's kind of a lie, Safi. Like, you got that one cake, and you really liked it, the strawberry one.
Yeah, that's one thing. I liked fruit. Fruit seemed to override everything.
And then we had chocolate marshmallow ice cream, which went really well with the cake.
Yeah,
the strawberry cake.
I didn't care for it.
Really?
It wasn't as good as it would be if you weren't taking that medication. So, but I had to take it. You do what you have to do when you're ill, and I did. And so anyway, now I've eaten some stuff, so I have gained some weight back, which is really good because my doctor was having a fit. And I almost dreaded going to the doctor because when I go there, like anybody else, you have to get weighed and you have to get measured and you have to get blood. And to get your blood pressure taken. And anyway, because I was nervous about what the doctor would say, my blood pressure would be high, my weight would be low, and everything else would be okay. But anyway, he got all mad at me.
Safi, would you like a t-shirt with Chunk on it?
Okay, that's it. So anyway, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.